The Ukrainian military is already actively using HF-1 drones from the German company Helsing at the front. These UAVs, powered by artificial intelligence, allow the Ukrainian Armed Forces to deliver rather painful strikes on the aggressor's rear facilities. HF-1s spotted in a BILD story about the work of the Ukrainian Defense Forces in the Sumy region. Helsing has received permission from the German government to supply its products to Ukraine in the fall of 2024. The Ukrainian forces are expected to receive 4,000 HF-1 UAVs. Of these, about 1,000 have already been transferred to the Ukrainians who are actively using these drones on the battlefield. The HF-1's special feature is the presence of artificial intelligence AI, which can independently detect an enemy target, recognize it, and aim at it. However, the Ukrainians have not yet used this function. They use UAVs to hit a predetermined target using the guidance system to bypass the enemy's electronic warfare (EW) system. The German HF-1 has many other advantages besides AI, and the main one is its impressive flight range, about 100 kilometers. According to the Ukrainian military, the comfortable zone of use of the German drone is 50 kilometers. It allows to hit the rear logistics of the aggressor. We have the ability to hit equipment where the Russian armed forces feel very free in areas that are very important to us, and we give them very unpleasant surprises, the Ukrainian Armed Forces soldiers said. Notably, the HF-1 is made of plywood rather than plastic like many UAVs. The military says this feature makes the drone invisible to enemy radar. Helsing plans to supply Ukraine with another 6,000 HX-2 UAVs by 2025. They are also equipped with AI, but will be entirely German-made. The HF-1 is mainly made of plywood, potentially reducing the weapon's production cost. The material from which the plane is made does not matter in principle, and you can use any material as long as it flies. It can be made of wood or of foam, completely printed on a 3D printer, and so on. The aircraft doesn't care. In our case, being made of wood makes it even better because it's radar transparent and better suited for operation at long distances. The troops stressed that the Ukrainian Defense Forces need more drones and people to work them. Defense Express reminds that Helsing in February 2025 announced a new order of drones for Ukraine, albeit the model is different. Ukrainians will get 6,000 of the latest HX-2 loitering munitions of the same family with X-wing design, first presented in late 2024. Supplies of HF-1 will continue simultaneously. The heavy losses of the Russian armed forces and the low number of contract soldiers are forcing the Kremlin to take extreme measures. The elite, the military police, are being thrown into battle. Information about this appeared on Z channels in early April. Across the entire front, there is a clear trend of gradually sending military police into assaults. There are fewer and fewer people in all directions. Obviously, the flow of those wishing to sign a contract is not as great as we would like, Z bloggers reported. It is noteworthy that the news pleased some Russian propagandists. Among others, Z War correspondent Romanov gloated, "I have never met more daring, charged fighters, and the closer to the rear, the more charged. At their posts, they are always in full gear, in body armor, some even with Dragunov sniper rifle. Always arrogant. Who is the boss here? You can read from the first sentence. I am sure that even in an assault, they will be able to wipe the enemy's BRK and give him a full inspection. Your time has come. wrote Romanov. It should be noted that the military police are considered an untouchable elite in the Russian occupation army. They have not been seen in combat. They guard checkpoints, search for deserters and other violators, send the disabled to storm, act as barrier detachments, and so on. The death and disablement of hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers, acute strains in the defense budget, and a looming shortage of military hardware make 2025 the year of truth for Moscow's armed forces. Recruitment has barely covered losses, forcing Russia to use draftees to counter Ukraine's Kursk offensive in August 2024, import troops from North Korea, and extend the use of convicts and people under criminal investigation. By resorting to such desperate measures, Moscow was able to maintain combat pressure and slowly extend its occupation of Ukrainian territory, though its slow progress would not be considered a success when judged against Russian military theory. In 2025, recruitment will continue to be a significant challenge for the Kremlin, further degrading its ability to field a modern army. Ukrainian militants continue to break through to the territory of Krasnoyarsk district of Belgorod region. Russian military personnel recorded many assault groups in the direction of the settlements of Demidovka and Popovka. As reported from the field, the Ukrainian Armed Forces currently maintain their presence in the territory of the aforementioned settlements. The southern part of Demidovka is currently under the control of the Russian Armed Forces. According to Russian intelligence, Ukraine does not intend to abandon further attempts to break through to the territory of the Belgorod region. In addition, it is reported that the Ukrainian command is transferring field guns to the Krasnopolsky district of the Sumy region. At the same time, Ukrainian soldiers continue to resist in the Kursk region. The epicenter of the fighting in the border region of the Russian Federation is currently the outskirts of the village of Oleshnya. So, Ukraine appears to be ramping up its cross-border assaults and efforts to penetrate Russian territory as ground fighting continues without pause on both sides, despite efforts by the US to negotiate peace. Ukrainian forces have in recent weeks intensified attacks in Russia's border regions of Belgorod and Bryansk, a step that experts see as an attempt to divert Russia's focus from the Kursk region, where Moscow's troops are trying to drive out remaining Ukrainian forces. The attacks in Belgorod and Bryansk appear much smaller in scale compared to Ukraine's Kursk incursion last August, which saw Ukrainian forces capture over 1,000 square kilometers. Kiev had hoped to use its Kursk footholds as leverage in peace talks with Russia, which has occupied swathes of eastern and southern Ukraine since launching its full-scale invasion in 2022. Russia accused Kyiv of several incursion attempts into its territory amid discussions between Moscow and Washington on the terms of a potential ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukrainian forces launched their offensive on Russia's Belgorod region last month, as Russian President Vladimir Putin and US counterpart Donald Trump were speaking by phone. Russia described the attack as an effort to disrupt the peace talks with Washington and to create a negative backdrop for the planned negotiations. The state-run RIA Novosti news agency, citing military sources, also said that Kyiv apparently planned to capture new areas in the Kursk region and gain at least some ground in Belgorod. Ukrainian military expert and former SBU security service officer Ivan Stupak suggested the Ukrainian intensified attacks were likely aimed at diverting attention of Russia's forces from other fronts. The goal is to divert the attention of the Russian Federation from the Kursk region, where the pressure is intense, and to distribute the strain more evenly, Stupak said.